In Ties, Great Alaskan Adventure, July 15th, 2016, and it's a lovely sunny day in Seattle, and we are on our way to ports unknown, Ketchikan, Haines, Sitka. How exciting! And have you ever seen such a sunny day in Seattle? Me neither. And there's the Space Needle, if you can see it. The next morning, looking out our window, we see the green hills of British Columbia. And the captain is talking about the Narrows, which is a very narrow spot that we're going to go through in a little while. And we see some ferries, because that's the way these people get around in this part of the woods, either by ferry or by seaplane. The next morning we arrive in Ketchikan. And Ketchikan, in retrospect particularly, turns out to be the most exciting, most busy city that we experienced.
Tons of buses.
I don't know how it compares in population to Juneau and some of the others, but probably a little bit bigger than the smaller ones, certainly. But at least on this morning, the activity was very brisk. People, buses, people going every which way. That is the tourist center there, and you can see some of the rest of the town, the shops, and the waterway in which we came. There's Mary and the regatta. And later on, we went on this boat here on a crabbing excursion. And there's a guy who took us with the crab, and there's Mary with the crab after we'd eaten more crab than we needed. Next morning, we are looking at the small, very small town of Wrangell, and you can see that the pier is quite low from, or high from the water, actually.
Yeah, that works.
And in many places, we had to take a boat to get off the ship. And in Wrangell, our experience was going up the Sticking River, which is one of the fastest flowing rivers in North America, and we were going to see the glacier, and the ride was much more exciting than the Shapes Glacier, which you can see it in the background here. There were some giant chunks of ice like that one there that we saw looks almost like a fish. And there Mary and Ty on the boat with the Shakes Glacier in the background. I took only this one picture that I recall of totem poles. They're very popular, of course, by the natives in Alaska, but we didn't see that many of them. And there's an old church. And there we are with the regatta again. And now we move on to Juneau. And Juneau, after Ketchikan at least, doesn't appear very exciting, and really wasn't. We didn't spend a lot of time in the town. We did walk around a little bit near the ship, but it may be a more cosmopolitan town because it's the state capital, but it didn't seem nearly as interesting or as hectic, perhaps, as Ketchikan. We went to a salmon hatchery, and that's the ladder that the salmon come up when they return to their home base. And here's Mary discussing how that ladder works. It's a real struggle for the fish to get back up there, and they end up in somebody's salmon can. Then we went on to a really interesting garden, like a forest garden, with this guy and his wife. Been here for 35 years, and they had made this forest. Moving on to the Mendenhall Glacier, you can see in the background there, and another picture of it, and Mary with the Mendenhall Glacier in the background. Not quite as impressive as the Hubbard, which we saw a couple days later. This is Haines, another very small town. And again, the dock is way up high with the water down low, so we had to take a little ferry around the... Actually, they use the lifeboats for that to ferry people into shore. And then we went on a kind of an interesting hike to the Battery Point, and had a cute little gal, Katie, who led the hike. That's her standing there talking. We had some serious major problems, I guess. That woman who just came out in the turquoise shirt had all the gear, but only lasted 100, 200 yards maybe, and had to turn back with one of our guides. And that old man there, not that one, but that one, not me, he fell twice, and we thought we were going to have to call a helicopter or something, but he pulled it together and did okay.
It's not fun. I've touched it before. It's really spiny, and it's not a good time.
Then we started down the trail. Any minute now.
What?
Stop it.
Oh.
Started down the trail, and somebody stopped for something, so I almost ran into Mary,
Move around a little bit.
and then a tree,
Pretend you're a,
but I
a
managed
fencer or
to
something.
keep on going, and here we go through the woods to grandmother's house. That's the guy that
Light the
fell. I
fire.
love this picture. It looked like something out of a Rockwell, I guess. And here's Mary with the water in the
Purple
background, trying to decide whether that's a hemlock or some other kind of pine tree.
Hubbard.
And we were having a nice little chat there.
It's a good size one.
And next we went to Hubbard Glacier. Hubbard is a very large, amazing glacier. I don't know how it compares to any other glaciers that may be in Alaska, but certainly in the three that we saw, it was quite large. I think we're about a mile offshore, and you can, or off the glacier, and you can see that it's I don't know. They said 3 or 4 stories high, I guess, and a couple of miles wide, and of course goes way back up into the mountains.
There's
So
the
that
ice, but
it's
there's
quite a
not
sight,
ice.
and they make a big deal out of getting close and how neat it is. But I guess if you've seen one glacier, maybe you've seen enough.
Very
These
exciting.
guys were picking up ice. I didn't see a lot of ice, and I'm not exactly sure why they were doing that, but I guess they wanted to show people, let people touch what glacier ice actually felt like. And I doubt it feels much different than any other kind of ice. Might look a little different, but ice, I
So
suppose,
that's most of what we see.
is ice.
And then the fourth kind of tree is a little bit shorter lived and younger lived.
That's a still
the
picture I
deciduous
took
tree,
of
or the tree with
Hubbard.
more of a leaf. That
And we
usually
moved on
see
to
just sort of
Sitka,
poking out of the
and
edge
we took
of
a
the
boat
forest.
where they
So
promised
that's
to
alder. Now,
return
we do
our
have
money if
primarily
we
red alder here, although
if we
have
didn't
some
see
thick
lots
alder as
of
well. But our old growth
life.
species of tree,
And we did
evergreen
see
trees,
sea
those are
otters
Got a nice eagle flying up here at our 1 o'clock.
and whales and eagles and all sorts of stuff. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was that when the Russians came into Sitka, they, of course, were chasing the sea otters because the fur was very valuable. And they chased them all the way down from Sitka, all the way down what we call now the Inside Passage. And they laid claim to that part, and that's why the United States has just that narrow passage along the coast from the north down to almost to Vancouver. We moved into Victoria, British Columbia, where I have never been before. It's a beautiful city. And
This is the
here we were going to go to
famous
Bouchard
second
Gardens.
garden.
Bouchard Gardens was
Very lovely.
initially a
Victoria
mine that
including us guys.
had been bought by the Bouchards to mine limestone. And Mrs. Bouchard decided she was going to turn at least a part of it at that time, and eventually almost all of it. This was the what they call the sunken garden, which was just absolutely gorgeous. Here's Mary trying to identify a flower, and a couple girls coming down the walk that it appears that I was more interested in, if you can believe that. But in any case, Mary was busy with her flowers and continued to do that as we toured Bouchard Gardens. You can see the way they have blended the trees, different shapes, different colors. Really a beautiful place. This is a Gemini rose, which Mary and I are both, and have never seen one like that. Then we got back on the bus after Bouchard and went down through Chinatown and a few other places. This is just a view past the bus driver's head. He was kind of a funny guy. We went down to the Empress Hotel, which is a grand old hotel. I don't know when it was built, but it goes back many years, and they still have high tea there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And here's the waterfront, where that's Tim, who was the piano player on our cruise. And you can see a lot of the tourists and whatnot. This was our last stop. Then we were going back on the boat. This is the capital of British Columbia.